So there's a real art and a real science in getting in the self-storage business today. The art I'm talking about is the art of getting good deal flow to look at. And what I'm calling the science, or the step-by-step process, is getting good deal flow to look at. Let's talk about that today, and the second in a Getting Started series in today's self-storage world. My name's Mark Helm, and I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Self-Storage Quick Start Academy. And what I do is I support the small investor who wants to get in the self-storage business or who wants to grow their self-storage business, strategically do so in a way that creates true wealth and a fulfilling career. Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage.com, QuickStartAcademy.com. Now, I've talked about this before, but I kind of want to come at it at a slightly different angle in today's self-storage environment. And that is the art and the science of getting more deal flow to look at than you have time to analyze. And I've said it before, but I want to re-emphasize it. Like almost everything else in life, success in your self-storage business will be a function of the relationships that you develop. Proximity is power. Being with people who own self-storage and sell self-storage and do self-storage deals, and having relationships with them, in my opinion, is the key to creating more deal flow than you can look at. You mean even in today's world with the internet and the ability to literally see every single property for sale and have access to the owner of every single property, all that's available to us, and you're still saying, Mark, that relationships are the most important? Absolutely. In fact, they've never been more important, because what the internet does is create a lot of noise. The internet creates a lot of people reaching out and touching a lot of other people through emails and text, and how we stand out is having the relationships with the people that sell self-storage or the people that own self-storage. I've said this before, but I really want to reiterate this, because this is one of the real keys for people who I have seen be real successful at getting in and growing their self-storage business. You know, I work with a lot of people who will, quote, buy a deal anywhere, and that's great. I'm real glad you're not like area bound. But my coaching is pick an area, not a city, but an area. In fact, maybe not even a state, but a geographical region. And you own that region. What I mean by that is you are the self-storage expert in that area of the country. You know every deal that's on the market, whether you buy it or not, whether it fits your strategy or not. You know what the numbers are. You know the difference. If the southeast is your area, you know the difference between the storage rents in Atlanta and the storage rents in Jacksonville or Orlando. You know what submarkets are overbuilt, what submarkets still have, or what markets say they have further demand in it. You know you could reach out to the people who own storage in that area and develop relationships with them. You pick an area and that is yours. And specifically, the self-storage world is still a fairly small world in the U.S. And in other parts of the country, it's even, and in other parts of the world, it's even smaller. But in the U.S., if, let's say, the Southeast or the Southwest or the West Coast is your target area, I'll promise you there's just a handful of real estate agents who specialize in self-storage in that area. There's 5 under 10 Now, there may be other agents who list it every now and then, but the ones who consistently list and market self-storage, and that's all they do, it is not difficult to get to know who they are and begin to develop those relationships with them. And what I did early on was I would call them on every single deal they had in my area, whether I wanted to buy it or not. And I would ask them questions on it and tell them why it didn't work for me and what I was looking for. And when I did buy a facility, I let all those agents know that I bought one and why I bought it. And what happens is, once you become a buyer and those agents know who you are, they're going to start reaching out to you. Now, if you're interested in the websites I used to begin to develop those relationships, there'll be a link at the bottom. If you're seeing this on Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, there's a link in the blog, episode 226. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, there's a link below. You can click it and I'll give you the websites that I use. Nothing special or magic about them. And there's probably more now that I use than when I first started. But that's how I got started. I used the internet. My relationship to the internet and my coaching to you is have the internet be a tool not to find properties, but to find agents who sell properties. Now, everybody's looking for the off-market deal. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you can start getting those. But my coaching is start with what's for sale. If you want to get in the self-storage business, my coaching is develop relationships with people who sell self-storage. Now, what there is to remember is these agents, you're not their client. In today's world, you're not the agent's client. The agent's clients are the owners and the sellers of real estate. How I relate to it is, my job is I want that agent to look real good to his company and to his clients. And how do you do that? Well, you become a buyer. And when you have the reputation of being a buyer, then they're going to start reaching out to you before they go to the rest of the market. Why? Because I help them fulfill on what they want with their clients. In other words, I help them look good to their clients. Now, when you're developing these relationships, my coaching is be big. Now, I don't mean misrepresent yourself, but I mean be strategic in how you talk and what you communicate to these real estate agents. If you're new in the industry, and we all are at some point, everybody buys their first facility, what you want to do is let them know your background and create a story around your background that lets them know you're not just some guy who woke up last week deciding you want to look at self-storage. Like you've been studying it for a year, you've got your money raised, or you've got your investors on the sideline, you've got your financing lined up. We're just waiting for a property to fit in, to go into the funnel. Let them know your background, that you've done other deals if you've done them. Talk about your successes in the real estate industry and your goal, because what's going to happen is at some point these agents are going to be presenting your offers to their clients, and most of the time we don't have direct access to the seller during the negotiating phase. So I'm selling the agent, and we want that agent selling us, so that when our offers are presented and we're up against some other people, they have the relationship with us. The most important thing you can let the agents know is that A, you've got the cash to put in the deal, or you've got it lined up ready to go, and B, you've got your financing lined up ready to go. You just need a property to put into it. So that means you need to have talked to your investors. You need to have reached out and talked with some banks, so the moment it goes under contract, you're not scrambling trying to find the money. You know which, you might not have it all raised, but you know which direction you're going. You know which banks you're going to present it to. They've already looked at you or your team financially, and they've given you the criteria for the property, and then you have analyzed the deal, and we'll talk about that, in such a way that that deal falls into the parameters of which you need to get your financing. You spend 6 months to a year developing those relationships in that way, I promise what will happen is you will start seeing deals before other people do, because those agents want to sell their properties fast. And if you are a buyer in their minds, you're the ones that are going to see the deals. And in our part of the world, those agents know what we're looking for, and when they have a client that they're even talking to about listing, very often they'll get permission to present it to us if they think it falls within our parameters. And we've written offers and LOIs on properties before they've ever listed it, and we keep the agents included. I mean, we make sure they get paid. Now, everybody's looking for the off-market deal. I am too. Now, unlike a lot of other asset classes, I'm not looking for distressed self-storage. Odds are, if it's distressed, very rarely do I ever see one that's distressed because of an ownership issue. If it's distressed, it's usually a fundamental issue. What I mean by that is there's something fundamental to that sub-market that's causing it to be distressed. I don't want those. Remember, self-storage has the lowest foreclosure rate of any asset class. Every now and then we see one that's been foreclosed on that's doing pretty well, and it was additional collateral for another piece of real estate that didn't do so well. We've seen those, but I sure wouldn't want to make a career on those. So, direct mailing. My coaching is buy a list, get a list of owners in your target area of the country, whether it's a state or a 3-state area or a region. Take the REITs out and do a quarterly mailing or touching of some type to the owners if you want to start doing that. Now, I get 2 to 3 letters a week from somebody who wants to buy my self-storage. Well, great. When I'm ready to sell my self-storage, I know who I'm going to call. And I typically throw those away. What my suggestion is, every time you touch these owners, give them a benefit. Give them some information. Give them what properties in their state are selling for. Give them information on what the average sale price is. Or this quarter there were 4 closings, and list what the sale price per square foot or something is. Every time you touch them, give them some information so that you become a resource for them. My experience is that at some point, every mom and pop owner is going to be thinking about selling their property. If my letter or my email or my touch happens to get to them while they're thinking about it, very often they'll pick the phone up and call. Again, I wouldn't want to make a career on that, but you can get, over a period of time, some real deals to look at before it gets in the hands of a real estate agent. In my experience in the self-storage world, they're few and far between, but it does happen. So let's circle this back around and create the steps that my suggestion is on how to create more deal flow than you can handle. Again, if you want the websites I use, click at the link that we talked about before. Step number 1, go to the websites or websites you go to, set up autoresponders so that every time a self-storage is listed in your part of the country, you're notified about it. 2, call and reach out to those agents that have property listed and ask them questions, introduce yourself, and when you are not going to write an offer on a property that they've taken the time to send you the package on, call them back, thank them, and tell them why. Next, go look at deals. Look at deals. Even if you're pretty sure you're not going to buy it, I would look at deals, meet the agents, meet the people who work with the agents, get to know them. I often get told that I'll go look at the property after I get an accepted LOI. Well, I've done that before too. My coaching is, if at all possible, do not write the LOI until you've seen the property. One, the seller and the agent will take your offer much more seriously. And two, I've had some experience where I've written an LOI, got it accepted, contracts being hammered out. I go look at the property and whoa, I pull the brakes on it immediately. Well, the next week I wrote another LOI, and it happened to be with the same agent that had the property that I just put the brakes on. Now, how realistic do you think it is that they're going to sell my offer to the seller on that second property? So I learned the hard way. If at all possible, I go look at the properties before I write the LOI. 4, when you find a property that appears like it's going to work, you've done the analysis, and we'll talk about that next week. You've done the analysis, everything looks like it could work, write the LOI. Don't wait to get all the information. You can do that in the due diligence. Pull the trigger and write the LOI. And I know that's scary if you're buying your first facility, but my coaching is do it. You don't have to know every single thing that's going to happen. You'll learn, believe me. But pull the trigger. Why? Well, I've seen it, I don't want to say thousands, but hundreds of times where they think about it, analyze it, go to a bank, think about it, talk to their investors, wait a week because they want to go see the competition. They want one more report from the agent, and by the time they're writing their LOI, it's long gone. So pull the trigger if you think it's one, and you write the letter of intent, which starts the ball rolling. I don't recommend just writing an LOI to control it. That'll work a few times, and then you start banging the price down $1 million, or you walk away. That'll work a few times, maybe, but it won't work long. You will not be a buyer that those agents want to work with. And the moment you get an accepted LOI, turn it over to an attorney you already have lined up to write the contract, even if you're capable of writing the contract yourself. I'm a CCIM real estate agent. Theoretically, I'm totally capable of writing a real estate contract, but I always turn it over to an attorney. One, it protects me, because I'm not an attorney. It protects my partners and investors. But B, it just adds validity to me as a buyer. And my experience is at the end of the negotiation process, it's not me and the seller or me and the agent, it's my attorney and the seller's attorney negotiating. So you want a good attorney on your team. And finally, and this is part of the relationship piece I'm talking about, during the due diligence, keep the agent up to date on exactly what's going on. If you've got a problem, don't wait till the end of the due diligence to tell them. Tell them when you find the problem. You want to be the kind of person that agent wants to do business with. Yes, I know our goal is to buy a property and to get it under the best terms possible. But one of my goals is to have good relationships with the people in the industry. And the best way to do that is just be forthright, straightforward, and stay in communication. If I have a weakness, my weakness is my ability to stay in communication. So I try to surround myself with people who are better at it than me in staying in communication. But do that with the real estate agents. It'll make a huge difference in the long run in your career in developing those relationships. Try to be someone that they want to do business with. If you're in the business of buying self-storage, be someone that people in the business of selling self-storage want to do business with. If you follow those simple steps, it will not be long before you've got more properties sitting in your inbox or more emailed offering memorandums to look at than you have time to analyze. create that problem for yourself. So this is the second in the Getting Started series, but it is a critical step, because in today's world, we got to look at a lot of properties to find the one that meets our criteria. So thank you very much. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Storage World Analyzer. That's the financial analysis tool we use to analyze those properties that we have sitting. So I look forward to being with you next week, and I'll see you then for the third episode in the Getting Started series.